friend, I have a question for you. If you could have any quilting superpower, what would it be? Would you be able to perfectly match seams every time? Maybe you would choose to magically finish UFOs within the snap of your fingers, or maybe you could summon the exact fabric that you need without even digging deep into your stash. Let's be honest, that would be a life-changing superpower when it comes to quilting, right? Welcome to Loose Threads and Stitches, the podcast where we chat about all things quilty creativity and life. I'm Kristen with IC Stars Quilting, and today we're going to have some fun because while we might not get to wear capes or like work in secret layers, quilters definitely have some amazing skills, right? So let's talk about our ultimate quilting superpowers and what you would choose. So in this fun little train of thought that I had the other night when I couldn't sleep, I came up with some superpowers that I would technically like to have myself, and I'm curious if these resonate with you. So yeah, today's a little bit off topic and maybe a little bit silly, but just roll with me on this because it's actually quite fun. First up, let's talk about the holy grail of quilting skills. Seams that magically line up. This superpower number one is called the seam whisperer. No more unpicking, no more frustration, no more pinning things 15 different ways just to have them still be slightly off. If I could have the superpower, my quilting life would be smooth sailing from here on out. But in reality, we do our best. We use the tools that we have, and sometimes we just call it like a happy little accident, or we call it charming, or, when things don't line up perfectly, and if anybody asks, we completely meant it to be that way. Superpower number two is what I'm going to call the time bender. And tell me if this sounds familiar. You sit down to sew just for like 20 minutes or so, and suddenly 3 hours have disappeared. What if we could actually control quilting time? Like speed things up when we're piecing 1.5 million squares and triangles, but slow it down when we're in the middle of something really like a relaxing quilting session. Can you imagine the possibilities that would entail? Like, it'd be so wonderful. Like, for example, like what if quilting minutes were like football minutes? Okay. I don't have to be a huge football fan to understand that one football minute means like 10 minutes in like real life time, right? In reality, we don't have time bending powers, but we can be intentional about making time for our creativity. And that's pretty powerful too. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself when I look up and I realize it's almost 10:30 p.m. and I still haven't eaten dinner because I have been so focused on quilting. Okay. We're going to do and talk about superpower number 3 right now and put this to the side. By the way, I am totally a Wonder Woman fan when it comes to superpowers. I would love to use my lasso of truth to be able to find that fat quarter that I know that I bought and it's somewhere in my stash, but I can't remember where I put it. I would love to use my lasso of truth for that. So quilting superpower number 3 would be called the fabric summoner. Right? So imagine reaching into your stash and instantly pulling out the exact fabric that you need. Almost like a Mary Poppins bag type of power, right? No more digging through bins, no more trying to remember where you put that one perfect print that you bought like years ago. It just appears like magic. But since we don't have fabric summoning abilities, the next best thing is a little bit of organization, or if that fails, embracing the treasure hunt approach and telling ourselves that searching for fabric is just part of the creative process because you never know what you're going to stumble upon when you start digging through all of your fabrics, right? Okay, so fabric superpower number 4. Let's think about this one for a minute. So I tried to figure out like a clever superpowery name for this one, but what I ended up coming up with was the UFO Eliminator. Okay, so we all have UFOs. We've talked about that several times and in several of our podcast episodes that sit in your closet and they wait for someday. But what if we had a superpower that let us just instantly finish every UFO without lifting a finger, or if they just disappeared and weren't on the project to-do list anymore? One snap, and boom, it's quilted, bound, and ready to be snuggled under. But since that isn't an option, I still say that we embrace the UFO journey. Some quilts take time, and that's okay. Although if anyone does figure out how to get this power of like UFOs Eliminator, please do let me know immediately, because I can probably pay you in more fat quarters and probably throw in some chocolate as a bonus for that power and the knowledge of how to obtain that power. Quilting superpower number 5 that I came up with would be an endless bobbin. So let's talk about the real life villain of every quilter's story. The moment your bobbin runs out usually is timed right with when you are in the groove of sewing and everything's going smooth. What if that bobbin never ran out? Imagine sewing for like hours, days, even without ever having to stop and wind your bobbin thread. No more sudden mid-seam stops, no more playing "Is this bobbin going to make it" game. The bobbin chicken game. Have you played that game? I am well versed in that game. Sometimes I win. Sometimes I don't. But this endless bobbin would just be like endless, glorious sewing, just continually sewing and sewing and sewing. So you can get bobbins that are pre-wound, so you don't have to stop and wind the bobbin. But since that's not a thing to have just endless bobbin powers, maybe the real lesson here is that we should all check our bobbins before starting a long seam. But where's the fun in that, right? Like we wouldn't get to play the bobbin chicken game. So instead we can just keep living life on the edge, playing a bobbin roulette, bobbin chicken, whatever you want to call it, and pretending to be surprised every time that we lose that game. There are also ways that you can buy like the pre-wound bobbins. I usually buy a lot of those in your just general neutral colors like white or black or whatever that I use when I'm piecing, because that's usually when I go through those bobbins, is when I'm piecing, and that really does help to have the pre-wounds already there. So those were the creative quilting superpowers that I came up with, and now I want to hear from you. If you could have any quilting superpower, what would it be? Would you never run out of bobbin thread? Would you just magically sew a perfect 1/4 inch seam every single time? Or maybe have like a GPS built in for every lost seam ripper and tool that you have, so that you could find them again when they go missing. Tell me in the comments, because I can't wait to hear your answers. This was such a fun episode for me to sit and play around with this idea and kind of, I don't know, just kind of break out of the normal quilting thought process. So I hope it made you smile. Quilting already feels like a bit of a superpower, doesn't it? I mean, who can take tons and tons of fabric, cut it up, and then create something like beautiful like this out of it? The fact that we can take fabric and thread and turn it into just gorgeous, gorgeous designs that is something meaningful is really pretty amazing. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and follow so you don't miss our next chat. And don't forget to drop a comment with your ultimate quilting superpower down in the comment section. I am excited to hear what you come up with. I know that quilters are incredibly creative people, and I know that this is something that a lot of you are going to have fun with. So please tell me what your desired superpower would be when it comes to quilting. Until next time, keep stitching, keep dreaming, and remember, you already have some pretty incredible quilting superpowers in you right now. So I'm Kristen with IC Stars Quilting. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you soon. Bye.